You are listening to the Best of Harmony One podcast, your number one show for tips, tricks, interviews, and much more about the Harmony One ecosystem. Hosted by Antonio Mavs and In Her Jar Creations. Live in harmony. Hello and welcome to another episode of Best of Harmony One podcast. I'm your host Antonio Mavs, and this is also hosted by Ain Hinjar Creations. He is not here today, but we have a very special guest, and his name is Toby Jacobs, otherwise known as NFT Art Studios on Twitter. Hey Toby, what's up?
Hi, Antonio. Really great to be here. Lovely to be on your show. I've been looking forward to it for a while. And I've got to say, I'm a big fan of your work. I always love looking at your pieces
Thank you.
and very proud to own some of them now. And yeah, I've been a big fan for a while. Your work always makes me smile and makes me think and makes me look twice. That's the most important thing. So a real pleasure to be here.
That's awesome. It's great to have you, honestly, and I'm glad that you enjoy my work because we enjoy your work a lot too. You work with several artists, right? But one of the most prominent ones, or at least the ones that's in on the DaVinci platform, is Janardan. Can you tell us a little bit about what that project is, who Janardan is, and what you do for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my history, I've got a quite interesting history. My history is actually in art. I've always been involved in art, and
Mm-hmm.
we are actually art restorers. So we work with a lot of high value paintings, and we restore all sorts of artworks for many many years. And Janardan was actually one of our clients. We did some restoration work for him some years ago, and at that point, of course, we met him, and he was a lovely, lovely guy. And at the end of the work, he actually gifted me some of his artwork, a small painting. And I was so touched. I thought, wow, this is such a nice thing to do. And I kept that artwork for a while in a nice place in our workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, of course, I started moving into NFTs and thinking about all this stuff. And of course, Janardan was the obvious choice because he's such an interesting artist. He's been painting all his life, 80
Mm-hmm.
years,
Wow.
and what makes him interesting is he's only painted abstract. He's always worked in the field of abstraction.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember asking, well, did you always work in abstraction? You know, because often young children, they tend to paint figurative things and things we recognize. And he says,
Mm-hmm.
no, he always worked in abstraction. He's got little sketchbooks from when he was a child and always doing abstract kind of doodles and work. So that made him very, very fascinating to me because it's quite a rare thing to have an artist who's never stopped working all his life and they really only done, worked in one field, which is pure abstraction.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something very interesting about him and his character. And of course, more important than that, he's a lovely, lovely guy, really, really nice guy. And of course, furthermore than that, is actually I really loved his work. That was
Mm-hmm.
one of the things. I had this little piece for a while, and it kept making me think. This is just it doesn't in a way. He gifted me some very small pieces painted on pieces of cardboard.
Mm-hmm.
So he does work on anything he can get. So he doesn't look anything for anything in particular. It's a recycled cardboard, paper, plastic, anything he feels like working with, he'll work with.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something special about his work that I couldn't quite put my finger on, and I just kept coming back to it and coming back to it. And of course, NFTs was really the thing that we were waiting for,
Mm-hmm.
because he's extremely prolific as well. He's got so many works, and he keeps on painting. So NFTs is really was a perfect outlet for him. So we started making NFTs, and we spent a long time trying to find where to start and which platform. And after a long debate with myself and research, I chose Harmony. And at the time, there was only Da Vinci Gallery there.
Mm-hmm.
So I started on there, or we started on there. And it built up from that point.
Yeah.
Um, so from there, it all really started. And of course, we moved up to all our connections, and eventually we got up to Bonhams,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll come to later. But really, that's how we started. Um,
That's quite
so yeah, it
fascinating.
was kind of yeah. And so it was kind of an organic growth, So Janardan was really the trigger that got me moving into NFTs properly. And you might not know, I'm also an artist myself. You see, I've done a lot of my own work over the years, um, but I don't have so much, and I don't have so much time to make art.
Mm-hmm.
That it made more sense to work with Janardan. And when we started with Janardan, then of course I got building up and collected more artists and built more and more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's essentially the basic story how we all started. You know.
Yeah, quite wonderful. There's a lot of things I want to like, I guess, point out. The first one is that his work is very expressive. That's something that has always captured me. When I look at his
Mm,
work, and I'm grateful to own a couple of pieces, not the big, like the really expensive ones. Although I would love to own those, but I have a couple of pieces. Thankfully, you've gifted me some, and I'm very grateful to have them. Those are like one of my prizes possessions because they're so good and so nice. And I love his
mm,
his expressiveness in his paintings. And like you mentioned, he is very prolific, so it's definitely something. It's perfect for the NFT world. But I gotta commend you. Since Da Vinci has the 10 piece a day limit, you've been consistent
yeah.
throughout the whole thing, and I think you're, if not the most pieces in Da Vinci, you're definitely one of those artists out there. So like, yeah, that's crazy. That's wonderful.
We were trying to exactly what we were trying to do is break the mold. We were trying to do something that's not been done before. We were trying to build the largest collection of NFTs created from proper individual physical works.
Mm-hmm.
So we were trying to break the mold and do something new, do something different. And of course, one of the things we thought about a long, long time is how on earth do we price them?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do we price these things? And it's actually, you'd be surprised how many hours I spent thinking how on earth do we price these things.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, we've got a vision of way into the future.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so the whole point is it's not only a collection and so much for sale, but it's a historic collection that will actually be the legacy of his work that
Mm-hmm.
we can hand down to his grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, the prices may seem all over the place. Some very high, some very low, but none of that matters because it's a long, long-term thing. So
Mm-hmm.
whether we benefit from it right now, or whether his grandchildren or their children benefit from it, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so there's multiple purposes for what we're doing here,
Yeah.
and in a way, we wanted to pave the way for artists that this is the way to put your legacy down. If you put it on a blockchain, you've really set up your legacy for all time
Mm-hmm.
if you do it well. And there's nothing else like that since NFTs have been created.
Yeah.
You know, the number of Picasso, for example, is one of the most prolific artists. You know, he's meant to have, I can't remember the figure, but hundreds of thousands of works.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we don't know where they all are. You know,
Mm-hmm.
nobody knows where they all are, who's got them. So there's no real track record of all his pieces. But if Picasso, for example, had put all his work down on as NFTs, we'd have a full track record of his whole legacy, and we'd be able to keep track of everything he's
Mm-hmm.
done. So this is what we are trying to show people. This is the way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, so it's been very very exciting, and that's right. You know, 10 a day at Da Vinci. Well, I figured we got to just keep on going, 10 a day without fail. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so we're still going. We've got plenty and plenty to go. We're aiming for really a long term goal is 10,000. So we want to see how long
Wow.
it takes us to get
Wow.
there. Again, that will put us down. You know, I think that will put us down in history. You know, the first
Mm-hmm.
huge large scale collection of art, all done by hand by a
Yeah.
single artist.
Yeah.
So it's been very very exciting.
It's quite wonderful, and I love the idea of perpetuity, like you've been saying. I like that you went for Picasso. I always think of Van Gogh because he died so poor and so sad. But if he
Yeah,
had the blockchain at that point, not only would he have benefited from, making all those pieces of art, selling them almost instantaneously because he's a great artist, but because of
that's right.
perpetuity and because of royalties, his whole family would have, still benefited fitted from his work. Whereas right now, only the people that own those paintings are making any actual kind of money. So
Yeah,
it's in a way it's very sad that that happened, but the fact that we have this new technology is definitely something that could change the art world forever. you know and
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
I love that it's 10,000 pieces because right now there's some collections that are 10,000 pieces, but they're all computer generated. There's nothing like one of ones, like hand drawn stuff. So you could be potentially the first, or like I said, if not the first, one of the first to have like a full
That's right.
collection that big, of
That's
single
right. I keep
paints.
looking to see if anyone else. Yeah, I
That's
keep looking to see if anyone else has done it yet, but I can't see anyone else doing it, or
yeah.
at least got that far.
It's
But I'm always looking out, and I don't, it'd be very nice if we meet anyone else or find anyone else doing it. I'd love to chat to them and see how they're doing it and how they're getting on.
yeah.
But it's very interesting. The art world is because, of course, I'm closely connected to the art world,
Hmm.
and I talk to a lot of artists and dealers and people, and it's still amazing. We're still so new. This technology is still new for them. The number of top people I talk to and tell them about NFTs, and the first thing they say to me, "Well, what's an NFT?" They still don't know
Yeah.
NFT, and then some might say, "Oh, yeah, I know NFTs," or "I'm not interested in that." They've got an association already. They've made up their mind. So
Hmm.
the art world is still trying to catch up.
Hmm.
And of course, that's the other thing I'm trying to do is bridge the gap between the existing art world and this new digital art world.
Hmm.
And an important gap to cross, because when that's crossed, I mean, I think the whole art world will change. You see,
Hmm.
but we're super early. We're talking about this in super early days. So it's also very exciting to know that we're here doing this right at the beginning.
Hmm.
You know,
Pioneering. Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
for sure. I guess it's a
um,
great place to like jump into Bonhams. How did that go to? How did that come to be?
well, that's right. Well, of course, I've got connections with all these people already, and Janardan also had connections there. But it's actually only the fact that we started to create this NFT collection that really got Bonhams looking at us and
Hmm.
notice us.
Sorry for
And
interrupting,
we're
but
actually very.
could you tell people what Bonhams is in case they don't know what it is?
Oh, I beg your pardon, yeah. Bonhams is one of the top auction houses. So we have Sotheby's, we have Christie's, and then we have Bonhams. So these three are the world's top auction houses. So we're very, very lucky that Bonhams, looked at us and took us up on it. But Bonhams, there was a lovely lady that works there and named Priya,
Hmm.
and she was very, very forward thinking to give us a chance and um, bring us in on board because of these NFTs.
Hmm.
And it's something that Bonhams don't usually do. They don't usually take on artists that haven't sold before, or relatively unknown.
Hmm.
He was known, but he hadn't been he hadn't actually sold officially to
Hmm.
be recognised. And in the fine art world, there's the old traditional way you have to have exhibited A, B, you have to have sold here and there, and then they might have a look at you. So that we managed to capture their imagination well enough that they took us on board and gave us a chance,
Hmm.
and we did very well on that side.
Yeah.
To actually sell it is quite incredible,
Hmm.
and the sale we had was pretty instant. When our lots came up, someone snapped them up straight away, and we
Nice.
heard afterwards there was another buyer that just missed out. So if that other buyer got in on time, because it was they're on the internet,
Hmm.
then we would have got a couple more. We might have crept up a bit, but
Hmm.
nevertheless, it was ever so exciting, and even that in itself is quite a historic thing. To have got ourselves recognised that quickly by the mainstream art world, and really that was done on the back of this NFT collection.
Hmm.
So it that just shows you. You see, Bonhams, they took one person in Bonhams to think outside the box,
Hmm.
and we were lucky to meet them and talk to them, and they got us on board. And that, of course, that relationship is still there. So I'm sure in time we're going to have more sales, and I'm still looking at more and more avenues for this, which I could talk to you about in a minute. Some very interesting stories to tell you, news to tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
but yeah, yeah. Well, okay. So I've been debating about this, but we're working on how to tell you about this or talk about this. But
Hmm.
I'm working on a very exciting big project, and this is really the first time I'm talking about it. So
Oh,
this is
nice. An
this is
exclusive.
quite a moment. Yeah, this is quite an exciting moment right here. So I'm working on a project with a blockchain technology company,
Hmm.
and these guys have essentially invented some new technology that's ever so exciting, world's first. So these guys have invented a technology that allows any physical object to be directly recorded on the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
And this is done by a tiny little chip. So you have a little chip, this is a radio frequency chip that can be connected to an object, say a piece of art,
Mm-hmm.
and then that object can be scanned with a smartphone and minted as an NFT.
Oh wow.
So if you get your head around it, what this means is we are creating a world's first physical NFTs,
Mm-hmm.
and this is quite radical because up until now, of course, NFTs are digital, and that's
Mm-hmm.
half the trouble that the mainstream world still can't get their head around.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point? What's the difference between an NFT and a JPEG? They still can't see the difference.
Mm-hmm.
You see, they can understand the difference between a real Leonardo hanging on the Louvre and a poster. You see, you've got the
Mm-hmm.
Mona Lisa in the Louvre. They know it's the real thing, but there are millions and millions of posters that everyone has got,
Mm-hmm.
and we all know the difference. This poster is a copy, and that one is the original.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, it's a big deal for people to get their head around the fact that you know that an NFT and a JPEG are two separate things, even if they're the same image.
Mm-hmm.
See, they can't quite make the distinction. The NFT is like the Mona Lisa hanging on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
and the JPEG is like the poster, whatever.
Yeah.
But with this chip, it's actually going to give people something to grasp. So, for example, the Mona Lisa hanging on the wall, if that had a chip attached to it, that would itself become the NFT.
Mm-hmm.
They're one and the same thing. So, for any artist who wants to create an NFT of their work, that work itself, the physical work, could become an NFT by having this chip attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very clever stuff. And of course, what we're doing with this technology, because there are many, many applications of this chip, there's lots of stuff we can do with this. But the first obvious application is to build a marketplace for these physical NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
And so the project is still quite big. The chip exists, and the technology to create these NFTs exists, but we want to actually build our own blockchain and a proper bespoke blockchain that can handle these physical NFTs. So that work will take a bit of time,
Interesting.
but we can build the marketplace at the same time.
Yeah.
So this is a new marketplace that we're creating for these physical NFTs, and I won't say the name or anything yet because it's still so new.
Mm-hmm.
But you can, if you're interested in this, because we do need artists, so it's a call out to artists out there. If you're interested, subscribe on my website, NFT Art Studio or nftartstudio.io, and I'll be emailing out eventually when we're ready. So if you subscribe there, you'll be the first to hear about it.
Awesome.
But
Awesome.
it's quite exciting stuff.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. I don't know how much you can go into it, but I have a question. If you can't answer it, that's okay. But
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. By the way, I am very interested, and I have I don't know if you've been seeing the stuff I've been posting on Twitter, but I'm working on a solo
Yeah.
show, hopefully for the end of the year. So I'd love to
I mean,
whatever. Yeah, like
once more, I missed it. Sorry.
oh, that's okay. But I've been posting different images and paintings I've been working on that are actually physical, and there's some stuff I've done digitally. But whatever doesn't sell, I'd love to like try it out on the new marketplace whenever it comes out. But I guess my question is, would this marketplace then allow for like the shipping of these items? Would that be like in the
That's right.
price?
All this stuff is in process of planning because
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, this marketplace is not going to be like anything else we've got so far.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like a cross between eBay
Mm-hmm.
and OpenSea.
Okay.
For that very fact, there's items that have to be shipped,
Yeah.
and when we build the whole structure, it's quite an elaborate, complex thing. But once we've done it, it will be beautifully simple and exactly right. Shipping and all these things will be taken into account. But at the moment, the marketplace is still going to be old school.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically have to contact and pay in the usual way, and then we organise shipping in the usual way.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing is, at least that item will have the chip on it. It will be registered on the blockchain,
Mm-hmm.
and your authenticity will be guaranteed. And what's more interesting about this, of course, this works for high value art. So if you have a Picasso, so
Mm-hmm.
you can collect all the provenance of the Picasso, even multiple photographs, and
Mhm.
this can be minted into an NFT, and this chip then connected to the painting. So
Mhm.
the entire provenance of the painting and history of it will be embedded into it. And in time, this chip will be small, tiny, and especially in new artworks, like so you're building a sculpture, you can embed it in there so the chip
Mhm.
is hidden, you can't get it out, and literally that item has become an NFT. And of course, how do you access it? You access it with a smartphone. So you
Mhm.
scan it with a smartphone, and that will register it's authentic or not.
That's interesting. I love
There's
that.
a lot. Yeah, that's right. And of course, but at the beginning, at the very beginning of this, it's more likely to be higher value things because lower value things, people are not going to be that bothered to have. They don't need a certificate of authenticity.
Mhm.
And you don't. They're not too bothered who. But the most interesting thing about having a physical NFT is proof of ownership.
Mhm.
This is what's very, very new and exciting. You will be able to prove who owns what. You see, you will know who owns that artwork, and that makes things very, very interesting, and has got big, big world-changing capabilities. You know, we can't
Mhm.
see quite how big this could, but it's ever so exciting. And yeah, absolutely. You know, you must have a look and see what you can make of it, and anyone you know, you must have a look and see when we release this publicly. Well, you
Mhm.
guys will be the first to see.
Yeah.
You know.
Awesome. Awesome. I love it. I love it. I guess to shift the conversation a little bit, since you are not
Yeah.
only you're an artist, you're a restorer. I guess you could also be considered a collector. I love to know what you as a collector look for in art, whether it's NFT art or just art in general, because I think it would be very helpful for other artists to know about this information when they are, making their art.
Yeah. Very, very good question. Very good question. And it's a question I ask myself all the time. It's actually a very difficult question. And for example, when we were selecting pieces for Bonhams,
Mm-hmm.
so we went through quite a long selection process because Janardan's got so many works and he's got big, big pieces, you know, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the pieces you see in our collection at a higher value, it's hard to tell on the on the image, but they're quite large. You know, they're large pieces, 5 foot by 4 foot. So
Oh
it's hard
wow.
to tell that how big they are.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, when they're physical, we'll know. And that's one of the ways I checked. You see, Janardan made his selection, and Janardan's lovely wife helped make the selection. Then I made a selection,
Mm-hmm.
and then when Bonhams, she made the selection.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting, one of the pictures we all chose the same, and the other ones, two or three, were nearly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then final decision, we all had unanimous agreement. So we all chose kind of independently,
Mm-hmm.
and then we all agreed together. That tells us, okay, there is some way that we're all agreeing that
Mm-hmm.
these are the best pieces for this particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very hard to judge because, especially in abstract art, how do you know what makes a good abstract picture? Because
Mm-hmm.
anyone can do any kind of abstract picture at any time. How do you know whether that's good or not?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, probably the easy answer is, well, they're all good or they're all not good. You see,
Yeah.
it's got to. I think it's got to speak to you. It's got to touch you somewhere where you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons I like Gennaro because he's not really. Again, it sounds funny to say it, but he's not really that bothered how the artwork looks.
Mm-hmm.
He's not bothered. Even he himself knows he might do 10 pictures and he'll say, well, one of them's good and nine of them are not that good. He's
Mm-hmm.
not bothered. He's just looking to get something out. He's
Mm-hmm.
got a feeling inside, an idea, and he's trying to express it. And the moment he thinks it's done, he leaves it and goes on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
It is like he's not hung up on even how it looks. It's more about how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as an artist, that's important. We need to be guided more by our feelings than even how it looks. And don't
Mm-hmm.
get me wrong, he will look at it and balance it and make sure he's happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
But the judgment is not done by his eyes, as done by his heart, if you see what I mean.
Beautiful.
And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we've got to do that as we got to do that as collectors. You see, we got to look at it and see. Okay, well we can analyze it physically, and one of the ways I analyze it is in the balance of the structure. Some good pieces, they've got a beautiful balance, and it usually is a happy coincidence. Even the artist doesn't know how they've done it. You see, some of Janardan's pieces, he might have only spent 5 minutes on it, but he's captured some magic in it that I value it very highly.
Mm-hmm.
And some pieces he might have spent a long time in it, but hasn't quite got that level of magic, so I don't value it quite so highly.
Mm-hmm.
So there is some magic that goes on in artwork, and that is the way I look at it. You're trying to capture some magic, and put it down somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And you as an artist will know when you've done that because you'll have the feeling, yeah, it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And in a collector, that's what I look for. And it's interesting because I work with so many top artists, most of the big names we've had in the year, because we've been in this business 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And not many times am I actually that excited by, even these top artists.
Mm-hmm.
But something about Garden excited me, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And I think it's because of that fact. He's got a freedom to him, and he's not hung up even on how it looks. And that to me is remarkably liberating, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a good way to approach art, and it also sets you free. You see, as an artist, we need validation, and it's nice when people tell us stuff and tell you your work is good. But we shouldn't even need to be bothered about that.
Mm-hmm.
The only person that, as an artist, needs to know it's good is you yourself. If you're the artist, you need to be happy with it, and then it's good.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't be doing it for anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the way Edge works. Nothing will stop him painting. If we stop making NFTs, he'll still paint. Whether
Mm-hmm.
we sell at Bonhams or not, he'll still paint. You see, that doesn't bother him. These are just all incidental. And,
Mm-hmm.
and, and this, I think, is a sign of someone who is a master artist. They're
Mm-hmm.
not too worried about what anyone else thinks. They're just painting what they want to paint.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody else likes it and wants to buy it, good. If they don't, so what? And that attitude gives you the confidence to produce the artwork. Well, this is the catch-22. That attitude gives you the confidence to produce the artwork that other people will actually want to buy anyway. You see what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. It's like an oxymoron.
So
I get you. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. Um, so I don't know how you feel as an artist. What's your take on that? I'll be very interested to hear you because, of course, you do so many different fields of art as
Yeah.
well, and you're also a musician, aren't you? Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, well,
Right.
lately,
What's your
yeah. Well, lately I've been going into like a little more abstract works. I've had my experience with them in throughout my career as an artist, but I never really dived too deep into it. I mostly do figurative art. But
yeah
there's been this thing that's gnawing at me lately, and it's exactly that. It's that thing. Okay, so it looks like a thing. It looks like whatever I'm painting. If it's a tree, well, it looks like a tree, but it doesn't have this feeling that I'm like the reason why or the intention as to why I painted it. And so lately I've
yeah
been I've been having at the end of the painting, I've been doing this thing where it's just abstract expression and emotion, and just start throwing paint at it. Of course there's a little bit of intention
yeah
behind it, but there's this feeling of, okay, why did you paint it? What's the intention behind this? What motivates you to paint every day? Because I paint every day and I work every day in this, on all the different aspects of arts that I do. And but
oh what
it hasn't been until now that I actually like want to convey these feelings in a way that expresses much more than these figures. So I've been working a little
yeah
bit of that. And sometimes it's scary because I think, okay, so it looks like a thing, but I could ruin it. But then there's also something liberating in this possible ruining of the art that I'm making, because at the end of it, it does carry expression, and it adds another layer onto whatever it is
yeah
that I am painting, and I'm enjoying it a lot.
and
It's
that's
also very dynamic and a lot of movement with it, so it's very nice. It conveys a lot of what it is to be a human, and what it is to be an artist. So I've been doing a lot of that.
yes that's right.
I've been doing
You brought up a very interesting point there as well. Is that this is another point about what I would call someone who's a master artist, is they know the point to stop.
mm-hmm,
And as an artist myself, I know exactly that problem. You get to the point and you think it's finished, you're not sure, is it, is it? And then you do a bit more and oh, I've ruined it now.
mm-hmm,
So you wish you stopped back then. And that's a difficult, very difficult thing to time.
mm-hmm,
And again, only in this. freedom of not worrying about what it is, that you can accept it's finished and just leave it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a liberating thing to have as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
But now, you again, I think you downplayed yourself there. But your figures that you created, you see, I don't trivialize anything. The figures that you created out of your mind are incredible.
Thank you.
They are unique figures that speak to us in a way that when I look at them, it inspires my imagination in a way that is unique.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not trivial in the slightest. That the fact that they seem light-hearted, maybe that's different, but they're not trivial. It's the
Mm-hmm.
same with Janardin. He's got some pieces that look very naive and childish,
Mm-hmm.
but I still don't trivialize. That doesn't matter. You see, I mean, Picasso has a saying. He said something like, "It took me 5 years to learn how to paint like Raphael,
Mm-hmm.
but it's taken me a lifetime to paint like a child."
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
even the freedom of a child, there's nothing in a child's mind, just they express straight out. There's no interference, there's no commentary, there's no judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And as an artist, if you get to that point, you'll be free. And whatever that may be, if you're creating a character,
Mm-hmm.
you release the judgment and forget about any of that. Just let it come out. Don't think of it as a trivial or serious. It doesn't even matter.
Mm-hmm.
What it is what it is. And I have another example. It's in my own personal artwork. One of the things I'm doing, which I used to make tiny little sculptures, they're like jewelry. So I used to find high quality gemstones.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, these were crystalline. So you get gemstones that you cut, so they become crystals. But I
Mm-hmm.
would search out perfect crystalline gemstones. So they're already natural, they're an interesting shape, but they're perfectly crystalline. And then I'd piece these things together with wood, and I'd get gold wire and wrap it around to make these unusual kind of sculpture jewelry things.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember a time I had a vision to make one, and it was in my head so clear. It's the first time I had such a thing, and I knew exactly when I wanted to make it and how it should be. And of course, when I made it, it was disappointing because what I saw in my head was so bright, so clear, and so vivid.
Mm-hmm.
And I translated my thoughts to exactly what I had in my head, but nothing could compete with the vision I had in my mind, even the
Mm-hmm.
final thing. So that's a very interesting eye opener, and I think that's the struggle we've got as an artist. We have something in us that is so powerful, so vivid, so clear, or even if it's not clear to us, we know it is in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the trick is get it out in such a way that we feel satisfied it's got out there.
Mm-hmm.
And never perfect. This is not a perfect process. We just keep on going and do the best we can.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this is the way this philosophy of Jim Arden has. Um, so I don't trivialize any artwork. I take it all seriously,
Mm-hmm.
and even artwork that you might think is not good, someone else might think it's good.
Mm-hmm.
If it's come through the hand of an artist, there's something in it because that artist has got a connection to doing something, expressing something,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the thing that's not trivial. Is the artwork itself is kind of the end result of it.
Mm-hmm.
And but of course, if we're looking commercially, that's another kettle of fish. We didn't actually talk about that. How do we select a commercial artwork?
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, I have a feeling that you can't worry too much about that. You have to still just do it the way you want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Come up with your own unique and your own passion, and that in itself will become commercial.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is what is commercial is looking for something new that doesn't is not there before. So
Mm-hmm.
none of us know what it is. So if you let it out, that is the most likely, best chance you've got of anyway creating something that will be commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I encourage all artists to keep on going. It's an incredible thing to do, and it will keep your life going. It will keep the joy in your life going. It will keep the energy in your life going. And now with NFTs, I mean, it's an incredible vehicle to get them up there, out there,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll stay. I mean, this is phenomenal. They'll stay there, for anyone to see. See, Janardon collection, whether we sell them or not, they're up there and everyone can look at them. So
Mm-hmm.
we've still created a gallery for them. Everyone can see it, whether they buy it or not, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that is still part of the plan. we want to get his artwork out there for everyone to see. And that is the case for all of us artists. You know, we want to get it out there and get it going.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We're reaching. I think that's a good way to stop. We're reaching the end of the
yeah,
interview. I guess to
yeah.
so just where can people find you on social media, your website, just a little. I know you said it before, but just an end cap.
Yeah, yeah. So we're on NFT Art Studio is the website, NFT Art Stud, STUD.io. And then Janardan has his own website, which is janardan.art, JANARDAN.art. And I can't remember my Twitter and Instagram handles, but they're NFT Art Studio something. But
Yeah.
if you go to either of those websites, you can find all my social media there, all our social media. But NFT Art Studio, NFTArtStudio.io, that's the place to go if you want to hear about this next marketplace. Sometime soon we'll be announcing it. But if you subscribe there, leave your email, then you'll be on the list to be the first to know about it when we actually go public. That's the most exciting thing, and in a way, I'm very very grateful for you to give us this chance because it's so timely. Yesterday we had our first big meeting of the team,
Nice.
or at least the beginning of this project,
Hmm.
and that's when I said, "Look, we've got a podcast tomorrow. Shall I announce it? What do you think?" And I think they all gave me the go ahead. Yeah, let's mention it. So we're not quite ready to mention the details, but we're mentioning that it's happening. And
Hmm.
this is if you put your name down on my website, you'll be the first to hear. And
Awesome.
this, of course, is the bridge for artists because your physical art now can be an NFT in its own right.
Hmm.
It's still. I wake up every day and pinch myself that this is the thing we're all waiting for, the link between the physical and the NFT.
Yeah.
Now they can be one and the same thing. And it also means if your physical artwork is there, when you buy that NFT, instantaneously that physical artwork will be transferred over to your ownership.
Yeah.
All you have to do is wait for it to be to you.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
there's still an shipping, but all these trust issues will be built into the platform when we get there. We're even going to build in an insurance system because of in shipping and all this.
Hmm.
The insurance is important. So there'll be all sorts of things built into this. So it's a very, very exciting project. I'm very grateful for you to give us the chance to mention it. Today the
For
timing is
sure.
incredible.
Yeah, thanks a
Yeah.
lot for this exclusive. And well, you heard it here first. If you're an artist or a musician, anyone that's or a photographer, I think this would be great for photography too. Head
Yes.
over to NFT Art Studio, nftartstud.io, and subscribe to their newsletter so you can hear it first. You've been watching and hearing the Best of Harmony One podcast. Today we were accompanied by the wonderful Toby Jacobs, aka NFT Art Studios. I was your host, Antonio Maps, and this is a co hosted project with Einhen Jar Creations on the Harmony One blockchain. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast, you can do that through the DaVinci platform. Just be sure to reach out to me or Einhen Jar, or you could have your image in one of the little logos in the back, and yeah, you could sponsor the show. Thank you so much. Thank you, Toby, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Peace.